Hey,
Hey,
everyone.
Susie.
Hey, Lucia. How's it going?
Good, good. Good to see you. How
Good
are
to
you?
see you too. Welcome. And
Thanks.
thank you for doing this. It's so nice to have you.
It's my pleasure.
How's it going in Italy?
It's a beautiful sunny afternoon here, and we're so excited in the region where I am because the beaches are finally opening up tomorrow.
Nice.
So we've been 3 months without having beach access, and it's like, I can't wait.
Wonderful. Yeah, after the several months of not doing anything, it's about time.
Yes.
So, we're here to talk about your art form.
Great. One of
And
my
of
favorite
course,
things.
and about yourself and how you started in becoming a musician. So if you want to tell me a little bit about your background, maybe how you started out being a singer and someone who plays musical instruments, and
Yeah,
just tell us a little bit about that.
sure. So the story goes that when I was, I think, 4 years old, we were on a family camping trip in New Mexico, and I saw children playing violin in the plaza in Santa Fe. And from that point on, I wouldn't leave my parents alone. I was like, I want to play the violin, violin, violin. They kind of thought I would forget about it, but a year later, they're finally like, okay, we'll get her a lesson. So I don't really remember that, but I do remember playing violin as a child, and I guess just was really drawn to that instrument. And then I also did musical theater in all throughout my life. So I loved singing and like theater and music together. I loved the theater arts. And then, in my like high school years, I started taking voice lessons and sort of developing my voice a little more, learning to play some guitar, a little piano, and then I think I got really into folk music because when I was 16 and I was a health worker in Bolivia. I didn't speak Spanish very well, and I was there for a summer, and I really like had a hard time talking to people and connecting through talking. But I
Mhm.
learned some of the folk songs in the village where I was staying, and that opened this whole world up of like human connection through music. And I that was kind of an epiphany, like, wow, the power of music to connect people. And that's really what, like, I think was a deciding moment in my life. Like, I want to do music is so powerful, and I have the capacity, I have the skills, and I have the talent, and so I want to do this. So I've just kind of gone on this long musical journey, and more recently it's taken me on the path of songwriting. So I did a lot of ethnomusicology studies and cross-cultural music studies and folk music, and that's been very, very enriching. And I've experienced so many amazing musical traditions in my path. And then I've also taken this path of writing songs, and so it's very different than learning music that exists and participating in musical traditions. But it's like carving your own path and finding your own voice as an artist. And so then on that path, I studied with, really great songwriters and went to songwriting camps and just started throwing myself into the ring as a songwriter, and bringing more of my original music into performance. And that's really where I am today. Like, my passion is about writing songs, and creating, new music.
Mhm. So you write your own songs and you write your music too, right?
Yes. However, it's music has always been very collaborative. So while I'll sometimes write songs completely on my own, it's very common that I co-write songs either intentionally or when I'm in the studio recording a song that I wrote. The recording engineer or producer that I work with might have an idea. We might like change it, and so then in that moment it becomes maybe a new version. So I really love the collaborative aspect of music. And so, yeah, I really actually look for opportunities to write with other songwriters or, you know, together with producers as well.
Yeah. That's interesting. Now that you're saying that, I'm trying to like draw parallels between like painting and making music. And you know, when you go to paint a painting, yeah, you take suggestions from people, but it's different than when you get suggestions about music, I think. Thank you for sharing that about your journey briefly. I wanted to ask something that just popped in my head. Was there a difference, or did you notice a difference between the two types of, you said, what was it? Theater arts and the music making? Was there a difference, and could you like elaborate on that, or do you have any idea of, you know, like a little insight would be nice.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the big difference is, I think, between singing and playing an instrument. So in the sense that you can kind of get away with playing an instrument and not like embracing the fact that you're in a piece of theater. You know, you can be in a band. Even that is a little bit of a stretch, because as soon as you're on the stage, you know, you take on a role, you take on a persona, and you're there, you know, to communicate a message, whether, no matter what you're doing. So even if you're standing on stage playing an instrument, you're still there with your body, and it's maybe it requires the least amount of theatrical, you know, preparation. But when you're singing, you can't get away, you can't escape the fact that you're also acting, right? So it depends. Some people come from the theater into singing, and some people come from singing and then have to embrace the theater side. I probably came from the theater into singing, so I already felt, I knew some of the skills of like the fourth wall and you know, personalizing something. But then over the years, you know, it's always kind of like, oh, well, let me pull some techniques from theater arts and then like put them together with vocal technique. And, you know, I think where they really come together is it's about communication. So when you're performing, you have a message to convey. And if you don't really know what the message is, and you don't feel that need and like connect with the need of that song or that piece of music, it's hard to connect with your audience, right? So then it's the same thing in a piece of theater, because it's about story and emotion and drama.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Thank you. It's interesting because I always think of like music as being like very spontaneous, you know, like there's no pre-planning, but obviously there is some sort of, you know, like you said, it's a performance. So I love.
Well, and that's a good point too. I mean, it's one of my favorite traditional music forms is Irish music, where it's actually this idea of a session, which happens in like in just an Irish culture in like in a bar or a pub. If they have music, they have a corner where musicians go and play, and it's not a performance, but it's not a rehearsal. It's this kind of other thing where anything can happen. Anyone can show up. If you know the like some of the music, you can participate. And there's no one who's telling you what to play. It's all very improvised within the container. And so it is very spontaneous, right? And I love that about it. But if you're on a stage and there's an audience, like there's definitely preparation that goes into that.
Better deliver. I love it. Thank you so much. That's great insight. I would like to ask you about your process. So what happens, you know, from the beginning of the song, like when it starts to manifest, how you get the idea until it's like actually out in production and on YouTube, or where you're playing it live, or any of that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's definitely no one process. Songs can come, you know, from all different like beginnings. So it really depends. Like sometimes songs are more like concept driven. So like right now I'm writing a song where it's like I have something I want to say and I don't know how it's gonna be said. So I kind of dive in, but maybe I'll be like, well, it's got this feeling, so I'll pick a rhythm and work with that and then like improvise over that and record the improvisation and then like pull out the things I like and then kind of develop those as ideas. Um, Whereas another song might come from like maybe something really, I don't know what I want to express, but I have a feeling, or you know, it's something I'm working with. Maybe maybe it's more on the like on the painful or uncomfortable side, and I just want to explore it. And so I just don't have any kind of agenda, but I say, okay, I'm going to stay with this, and I write words sometimes, and like maybe I'll write a whole set of lyrics, and then kind of like set up a musical palette, like of sounds, like maybe I'll pull references of some songs that I know already that kind of have that feel. And then I'll build, you know, a couple, like some chords or like a pad of sound, and then try to find a melody. So, you know, there, or you know, or you hear something someone says and you're like, oh, that's a song right there. And then you kind of take the title and then you know, write that story. So they can really begin in so many different ways. And then after like an initial idea comes out, it's not, you don't have anything physical. So you can't see it, but if you can imagine like, I don't know, like a block of marble and you just start chipping away, you know, at it, that's one way to look at it. Or another thing is like layers. A lot of times in the recording studio, you put layers down. So you put like a guitar track down, or you put like a rhythm down, and then you start building layers. But then, you know, you can chop pieces up and move things around. So it's also very much like architecture in, you know, in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's interesting. I was going to ask you, like, how do you get the themes? You know, how do you decide on the themes that you're going to tackle in every single instance? But I think you kind of answered that already.
Well, so it's interesting because when you're writing songs with lyrics, you know, there's like the musical themes, and then there's like the lyrical themes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes they kind of just all come together, but often it's like you'll kind of work on one and then the other. Okay. So you know, like I'll and you have to sort of divide the work up. So it's always like this negotiation between like, okay, well, this is the lyric, or this is the idea, the theme that I'm working with, which is maybe like I think there's a recent song I wrote called Protector. So I was working with this idea of like, I'm not your protector anymore. I don't want to protect you at my own expense. So this is like a self, you know, reflective personal growth theme. So I have this lyric there, but then, you know, at some point I have to know what the music is, and that guides me. Like, well, what are the lyrics? What is it? How many syllables? And what's the rhyme scheme? Like, how can these lyrics also be music? Mm-hmm. And it's just like kind of a continuous like bringing together the music and the lyrics so that they like melt together, and you can't really separate them anymore. But oftentimes it doesn't. It's like from the outside in. You know, sometimes like things will just pour out and they're just like musically and lyrically like perfect or in line, but that's more of the exception.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was listening to the song that you just mentioned, Protector, and I found it very different than what I've heard from you before.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Dido. Are you familiar?
Oh, yeah. That's great. I'll take that as a compliment.
Seriously, I was like, oh, this is really different. It doesn't sound like Lucia's usual. So is that how you're feeling like you're moving towards that, or will you still be playing some folk music as well?
Yeah, you know, so that like a lot of what people hear in recording music is like final product. So it's like the recording is the production. So how are you going to dress it up? Like the song exists, you know, like that could be a folk song, you know, and it doesn't necessarily seem like a folk song because in that recording there's some electronic instruments in there, and it's kind of going a little beyond just like a voice and a guitar.
Yeah.
So let's say that, like, yeah, I like that palette of sound, and I don't want to limit myself in any way. I'm in a really exploratory, like open, playful, like period right now. So I like that palette a lot, and I think I'd like to do at least an album's worth of material in that soundscape. So maybe dressing the songs up with those sounds, and see what happens. Yeah, it's definitely, it's all about like just taking risks and trying new things.
For sure. Well, good luck with that, because I like where that's going. I like
Thanks.
sounds. I'm not much of a folk kind of person, honestly. I do like a few people who sing folk and country, but I'm not much of that kind of music. Although I like to think of myself as like a lover of all music. So
Yeah, but we all have these different things that draw us in,
yeah,
and like, and because I love music because it connects people. I have never been such a fan of genre because, again, it's like, okay, I'll produce a folk or American or country album, and then like I'll connect with that group, but it doesn't mean I don't want to connect with other people. And so I'm a terrible, like, commercially, like, it's terrible because artists are like brands, and so the more loyal you are to your brand, like, the easier it is to sell. So
yeah.
I'm really bad at that, but that's fine. I'd rather be like a versatile artist.
I totally get that. It's interesting because humans like to categorize everything. You know, everything has to have like borders and boundaries and names and titles and and hierarchies and all that lovely stuff. So
And now more than ever, because like, musicians need to get on these playlists, and on Spotify, for example, or on like YouTube, like, because that's how people discover music. So how they get that, the only way for those algorithms to work is for the songs to get categorized in all these ways.
oh, gotcha. Yeah. So it gets a little complicated in that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good insight and a little in depth on the music world. Tell me, what are some of your fears as an artist?
Oh, that's a good question.
Got to bring that in.
I think that every time I start writing a song, I'm always afraid I'm going to fail. And that's part of what I love about it, because it's so challenging, and you just don't know how you're going to get, like, you start creating something and you just don't know like how it's going to turn out, and there's this fear that, one, you're going to abandon it because you don't like it, or just get distracted, or two, like, you're going to follow through and it's going to suck. Like, it's just like, either you're not going to like it or like everyone's going to hate it. But I think I've had enough experience now. I've written so many songs, and like, I just pretty good about pushing myself through that uncomfortable spot. And usually, like, it's pretty much 90% of the time I'm like, thank God I pushed through that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's common to all artists, regardless of what their medium is, to have that, questioning of, gosh, like, I'm going to put my soul out there and how's it going to be received?
Definitely, yeah.
It's a tough place to be, but hey, we're courageous, all these artists.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, it's almost like the essence of why we chose the artist path. I mean, so it just goes to the very core of like your identity as an artist every time that you're creating. But that's where the life is, right?
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for that. So, what are your long-term goals for your music, and what would you like to see happen for you? in the coming years?
So yeah, thanks for asking. It's like I always look at this as an opportunity to like put it in the universe, like
That's the
put it
point.
out there. You got to put it out there if you want to get there, and you never be careful what you ask for because you might just get it, right?
Oh, we'll get it. That's the whole point of this show.
Okay, great, even better. Okay, so for me, like if I'm to imagine myself, realizing my dream as an artist, I really want to collaborate with other people in my field, like in other mediums, but like film, multimedia, so imagery, like video, film, music, songwriting, music production for like, I don't know, not only performance but other like educational shows for kids, or like some kind of event, cultural events, and I want to collaborate with people at a really high level who are really talented. So for me, it's like I really want my music to open those doors for me so that I can be on the team. Like I want to be called and asked to join these teams of other collaborators and be challenged. Like I want to be put to work. I want someone to throw me and my team like write the song for the next whatever series, The Crown. I don't know. I'm just randomly like whatever people are watching, like the stories that have meaning. Yeah. Like I want to contribute to that. I want to be on the team and be part of that. So that's really my dream. I love performing. So I'll always perform, and like playing music live with people, it's really something I love. So always do that. But I think really as like a career goal, just to be able to collaborate with the people who are doing this day in, day out.
Okay. My musician friends, you heard that. You know who to call. Find her, Lucia. She's your girl. So, can we listen to something?
Yeah.
Just a little bit?
Yeah, like something live?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it would be my pleasure.
I love it that you have your guitar right there.
I better make sure I'm in tune. Maybe we should pause just a sec while I tune, or you can fill in the space.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to still talk as you tune? We could do that.
Sure. Okay. So,
where can you find your music? Where can people find your music? I know you said you had a Patreon, which I didn't even know.
Oh yeah, I love Patreon. So I'm a huge fan of crowdfunding. I've funded like 3 of my music videos on crowdfunding platforms. Like Pledge Music isn't around anymore, but that was kind of Kickstarter for music, and that was great. And then I did a Kickstarter campaign as well, and then Patreon came around. And Patreon is so great because it's an ongoing, people, can like commit $1 per song. And my goal right now is like a new song release every month. So I do a pre-release to my Patreon group, and they get to hear things before anyone else does. And it's kind of like an inner circle. So, and I share, about a little bit more intimately about the song and the process. And so you can find any of, like, I have a YouTube channel. I'm on all the digital channels, just under Lucia Comnes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right. Let's see. Thinking about what feel like playing here. I need see what the
Whatever you feel like.
All right. I think I'm kind of in like a mellow mood. So I'm going to sing you one of my favorite songs. And I'm also a little homesick.
Aw.
Yeah, I haven't been back in the States for a while, and so this is a song that I wrote actually since I've been in Italy, and it reminds me of the beautiful Mount Tamalpais in on my homeland, the mountain where near San Francisco, where I was born.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That'd be lovely. I know you had some plans to go there, and then the whole pandemic happened. So
Yeah, I know.
so
I was supposed to be there all March, and I'm still here in Italy, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get there this year. So we'll see. I mean, maybe this fall we'll everything is kind of all in limbo. So
no, for everyone.
yeah. All right. So this is called "The Sleeping Lady's Daughter," and Sleeping Lady is the local name for Mount Tamalpais. Bring me back to the place that I know, where the live oaks, the bays, and the sagebrush grow. Give me the night high on a hill, past Pantole Station and the old redwood mill. Of blankets that fall, where hummingbirds rise. There's no better place to watch the sunrise and glide down the mountain to ride in the swell, across long sandy beaches to the call of the quail. I come from this land, oh, I come from this water. People call me the sleeping lady's daughter, held in the bosom of all that is one. I'll always belong like mother and child. Stay the light of a mountain and counted in years. Spent half of mine giving you my ears. I heard that you miss me. Now that I'm gone, no distance can drown out your beautiful song. And the twilight rolls in on a cool misty breeze. The coyotes are laughing on the fence beneath the trees. And a great horn owl sitting perched on there, on the sunset across the Pacific Rim. I come from this land, no, I come from this water. People call me the sleeping lady's daughter, held in the bosom of all that is one. I'm always belonging like mother and child. Always belong like mother and child.
Yeah. Thank you. That was beautiful. And I've heard it before, but it brought goosebumps because
Oh,
of this whole situation, and I completely feel you.
oh, right on. Thanks.
Thank you, Lucia. This was great. It was lovely to see you.
You too. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be part of your series. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk about our process and our art and what's so important to all of us. So thank you, Cece.
It's my pleasure. And you're my first musician, so I
Woo!
have, next week I got musicians too. I think we might do something live as well, so we'll see.
Great. All right. Well, I'll send some more people your way if you want.
Sure. Anyone who wants to talk about their art form, whatever it is, please get in touch.
All right.
Take care, my dear. I'll be in
Bye.
touch.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks again.